it's a girl, or I'm a girl. Now, this is actually my second gender reveal, because the first time my parents told the world that I was a boy, which is incorrect, but I do not hold it against them, because how could they have known I was gonna be trans? But it's a good reminder that the parts you see on an ultrasound don't determine a baby's gender. And how is that possible? Well, think about it like this marker. A blue cap usually means a blue marker, but sometimes marker caps get switched, and in this case, it is a pink marker. See, that's what happened to me. They saw something on the ultrasound that usually means it's a boy, but the cap was cap, and I turned out to be a girl. So should we stop doing gender reveals? Of course not. Gender reveals are a great way to celebrate the birth of a child. What I'm suggesting is instead of doing it before the kid is born, do it after they're born.
Yeah, let me help you out here. And for those folks, our great audience who's on listening on radio, on Spotify or iTunes or other podcasts, there's a dude there with long red hair, wearing a dress. Let me help you out here, dude with long hair. You're a dude. You're a boy. And if you want to look at an ultrasound, look at the ultrasound. If it has a penis, it's going to be a boy, my friend. And if it has a vagina, it's going to be a girl. Sorry, that's the science. But according to people like this, these clowns, if an ultrasound identifies a baby boy, we should wait until after birth to share that news with loved ones, then ask the infant child what gender they would like to be, more likely what you want them to be, freaks, or wait until, I don't know, what, 2 decades of social media brain rot and indoctrination if you're watching MSNBC or CNN, and then they can tell the world what gender they have chosen. Guess what? They're going to do it anyway. While you guys try and figure out that one, we got plenty more to discuss. So as always, let's react. Okay, we must start with this picture of the new Los Angeles mayor, the one who's under such scrutiny right now for screwing everything up, Karen Bass. Now, if you're watching, great. And if you're listening, it's a big picture right now of Karen Bass sitting in the middle of a bunch of people, men and women, some are in masks, and they're all smiling. It's a selfie. For whatever reason, they thought it would be appropriate to take a selfie smiling ear to ear at the Hearst Fire Command Center in Los Angeles. I don't know if this is arrogance, ignorance, stupidity, F you to the world. What the hell does Karen Bass, why does she have to be smiling? What does she have to be smiling about? The entire country despises her. Her residents are cursing her name as they fight to survive the horrific fires that she's done absolutely nothing about. Is it really possible for someone to be this socially or unself-aware, let's call it that? She's smiling. She's only smiling because her ivory tower home still stands. Of course it does. Speaking of ivory tower elites, remember this clown? Jen Rubin. Now, let me set this up a little bit. Jen Rubin claims to be a conservative who used to work at the Washington Post. Well, Jen Rubin, she's never conservative. It's all a lie. Well, she just announced that she's leaving the Washington Post. Her and her pal, Norm Eisen, are teaming up to bring us, well, I'm not really sure exactly what they're doing, but take a listen. They did release one of those cringe-worthy videos that I've ever seen to try and explain what they're up to. See if you can tell exactly what they're up to, because I can't really figure it out. Listen.
Hi, I'm Jen Rubin.
And I'm Norm Eisen.
I am here to announce I am leaving the Washington Post in order to co-found with Norm an exciting new online platform, The Contrarian. We are going to bring you written material, podcasts, interviews, social media, all in defense of democracy. Our intent is to combat the authoritarian force that we all face.
We're going to do politics. We're going to do law. But we know that any successful pro-democracy movement also has to be very vocal about culture. We'll have a humor column. We'll even have a cooking column, but we're going to sprinkle in a little bit of pro-democracy flavor.
All right, I have no idea what it's probably what they're doing is they couldn't stand the legacy media and they're trying to capitalize on digital. I mean, it's where everyone's going, but man, If that's what our competition is going to be, bring it on. It's almost hard to believe that the video that we just played right there is even real. While Jen and Norm sprinkle in that good old pro-democracy flavor, they're still going to do cooking shows and stuff. I promise you, folks, I will not do any cooking segments on this podcast, this show. Now let's check in on that old dude, Joe Biden. Surely he hasn't messed anything up in the last 24 hours, has he? Right, Joe? Right?
Post-Cold War period is over. A new era has begun. In these 4 years, we faced crises that we've been tested. We've come through those tests stronger, in my view, than we entered those tests. Today, I can report to the American people, our adversaries are weaker than were when we came into this job 4 years ago. I know some incoming administration, some in the incoming administration, are skeptical about the need for clean energy. They don't even believe climate change is real. I think they come from a different century. They're wrong. They are dead wrong. It's the single greatest existential threat to humanity.
So those were a few clips from the final, thank God, the final major foreign policy speech that Joe Biden will ever give as a politician. And instead of addressing the real and dire threats that our country currently face, Iran wanted to blow us up. Remember that? China, not exactly making nice with us. Russia, threatening us. South Korea, North Korea, South Korea even, maybe if they take over, if North Korea takes South Korea. Well, instead of any of those, Joe Biden, the president, decided to bitch and moan about climate change and slur his way through a few other digs at the incoming Trump administration. As always, great job, Joey. Don't worry, at least the president is using his final days in office to really make a difference in the lives of those people in California, those victims. He just got them all some aid. Well, listen to his generosity carefully.
I want to be clear. We're not waiting until those fires are over to start helping the victims. We're getting them help right now, as you all know. People impacted by these fires are going to receive one-time payment of $770. One-time payment.
Notice how he said one time, $770. One-time payment, $770. So I did a little math. Okay, we've given Ukraine $200 billion under Joe Biden, $200 billion. There are 17,000 households in Ukraine. So we've given Ukrainians $11 million per household. $11 million per household to Ukrainians. But the Americans, the victims of a California wildfire, poorly managed social structure in Los Angeles County and others in Southern California and California, they're going to get $770 a household. Ukrainians, $11 million for you. Americans, $770. Thanks, Joe. Meanwhile, their $1 million California homes are being burned to the ground. Thank you very much for your $770. What an absolute disgrace this man is. Do you know how many dollars were committed to Ukraine from that very desk? I told you, $200 billion. $770 for Americans who literally lost everything they had in a state that overwhelmingly supported Joe Biden, your clown vice president, in your election efforts. Shame on you, Joe and Kamala. Hopefully this egregious negligence opens some eyes moving forward. I don't know. Maybe California goes red. Who knows? But as usual, Kamala, well, she didn't have much to add to the conversation. Here she is babbling on about what else these devastated Californians should do during this time of crisis. Get this.
And so it's critically important that to the extent you can find anything that gives you an ability to be patient in this extremely dangerous and unprecedented crisis, that you do.
Was she an idiot? Was she drinking again? Beep. Fuck. The fires are burning the city down. They're raging. Be patient, she says. Meanwhile, there's no water in the fire hydrants, no force, no propulsion to push the water onto the homes that are burning down. But be patient. Be patient. Sure thing, Cammie. So you're saying that as my house burns, I should simply stick around and wait it out, right? What an absolute moron. And there are people who are still confused about why Kamala Harris didn't win the election. By the way, she thinks she's going to be the shoo-in nominee in 2028. All right. Today, I gave you a little bit of old Joe, some Kamala. Naturally, next up would be Karine Jean-Pierre. Let's listen to this one, her latest, as we all get ready to bid farewell to this cast of clown characters.
A week from now, it's all over.
Yes.
Between next Monday and 2028.
2028?
Who's the leader of the Democratic Party?
Oh, my goodness. Wow. That is for people much smarter than I to make that assessment, that decision. Obviously, voters will decide. That is not something for me to decide. I could say right now, in this moment, in this room, as I'm looking at the clock as it's counting down, because we have to leave shortly, you have the President Joe Biden, who is obviously the president and the leader of the Democratic Party. I do not have I cannot predict the future, so that is not something that I'm going to do from here.
So, no leader of the party.
That's not what I said.
Oh, boy, oh, boy, oh, boy. See what happens when you ask Karine Jean-Pierre a question that she can't look up in that book, that briefing book. She can't page to where that question is with the right answer that someone has written for her. Karine, another airhead whose tenure at the White House almost feels like a simulation, like you could make that up, like it's fiction. Her response may have been abysmal, but the question was a good one. Who is at the top of the Democrat Party right now? It hasn't been Biden for years. They tried to make Kamala Harris the top of the top, which she couldn't have screwed up any worse. Gavin Newsom was a top candidate, but after seeing how little he cares about the devastation in California, I'd be shocked to see him garner national support, but you never know. They are Democrats. That party truly has no leader, no identity. Well, personally, my vote would go to John Fetterman. Seems to be a centrist now, sensible, although hopefully he will be on the right side of the aisle by the time 2028 rolls around. You never know, folks. You never know.